This Fed Gov Today program is sponsored by Maximus. On this edition of Fed Gov Today with Francis Rose, CX best practices taking shape at the VA.
They've married their operational data with their experience data. Early on when they created this, they went through a process of what's required by law versus what's required by myth, or has it always been done that way?
Customer experience expert Martha Dorris on Fed Gov Today in just a moment. Uniting program strategy, advanced technology, process, and execution for a more efficient government. That's Maximus. Every program, every service, every time. That's innovation forward. Learn more at maximus.com/federal. A programming note, FedGov Today TV will debut at a new time starting this Sunday morning. You can see the new show Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on ABC 7 in Washington and on YouTube. The new show's on American Forces Network several times throughout the weekend. If you record the show and watch it later, make sure you change the recording time to 10 a.m. Sunday morning on ABC 7. If you missed the debut, you can always watch it on demand on the FedGov Today YouTube channel and on fedgovtoday.com. Federal CIO Greg Barbacia says customer experience will inform the progress he wants federal agencies to make digitally. Every agency will designate a service delivery lead to drive that progress. Martha Dorris is founder and CEO of Dorris Consulting International, a former customer experience lead at the General Services Administration. She hosted the CX Summit along with ACT-IAC recently. After the summit, she explains how those leads will do their jobs and how they can succeed.
It's really about how you deliver services to the public, right? And so service delivery is really the center of, A11 is like service delivery and customer experience, and the Government Service Delivery Improvement Act, which we can kind of weave in here, really pulls it all together. And customer experience is really about the practices, the strategies, all the tactics that you use to deliver those services to your customers. And that could be the public, and it could be employees, and even customer, it could be beneficiaries or taxpayers or whatever. And when I was doing the panel today, I kept getting all these smiles because they've heard it 5,000 times. But Greg has been appointed as the government-wide lead for service delivery. And right now, all the agencies are the HISP agencies. I think they're working through the CFO Act agencies first, identifying a lead for service delivery within that agency. I asked him about, who does he expect to be the service delivery lead? And the answer is it depends on the agency, right? It depends on the structure, the culture of the agency. But he did say they either need to report, they don't have to be the CIO, but if they report to the CIO or like the deputy secretary of an agency. So it's my understanding within DHS, it's going to be the CIO. But over in the VA, it's going to be Dr. Davis, who runs the Veteran Experience Office. So it's going to depend on the maturity of service delivery within the agency that they're, who they really appoint. To me, the Government Service Delivery Improvement Act really filled some gaps in the policy framework that we have. And one is around, accountability, responsibility, oversight, and just the whole governance structure of who is responsible for service delivery in an agency. And so we've had, over the past year, we've had a lot of the customer experience offices either gotten rid of or abolished, or whatever the right word is, or they've been cut way back. And so everybody's sort of in a flurry about what does that mean? And we're trying, all the agencies are, what does that mean to us? Does that mean customer experience is not important? But that's not what we heard from Greg today or from OMB. And the president's management agenda also called for the use of technology to deliver outstanding services. And so they're focusing on digital first, but it's not digital only, and they acknowledge that today as well. So it's more, more cost efficient, effective to actually make the digital side and self-service side, as outstanding as possible so that you're using plain language and people can access the information. But it's not digital only. And if you don't do the digital part right, your contact centers blow up because they're calling to get information because they can't understand what they're putting online. So they talked a lot about integrated services end to end, which is where customer experience and the IT side marry up and get integrated. So they really, I think, in combination with everybody, the OMB team, Barbara and Greg, really doubled down on the public's need, desire, expectations, and around transparency and around the being able to access services and kind of streamlined. They also talked a little bit about when agencies do things to create more efficiencies and they make it easier on themselves by reducing the time it takes for them, we need to start thinking about how we're reducing the time and the burden on the public for how they actually access and use services.
Mm-hmm. The service delivery leads will be fascinating to me to watch who they are and where they are in the org structures. And you mentioned that there'll be different places depending on the agency. What are the variables that you think agencies should take into consideration to determine where that person lives in their structure?
I think they need to be high enough in the organization. If you think about, they need to be able to either have control over the technology or be able to pull the technology strings, right? We know, obviously, AI is a big, is being... And it was interesting because we talked a lot about AI, but not that it's going to be the silver bullet. And that, same thing with technology, you're just got a shiny new thing that is doing the wrong thing. So that's, again, where you integrate who are your customers and customer experience along with the technology play. And the fact that agencies, the teams are not always prepared, but the customer base is not always prepared either. And you've got to really take all of those into account. So I think the person needs to, and they need to be high enough in the organization. You should be pulling the data together across, the feedback data you get from across your entire agency to be able to see the full picture. That person needs to be able to create a pipeline of initiatives that can drive service level improvements across the whole organization. They talked a little bit even about bringing the performance management piece into it. It's like there is no place you can go and see how long does it take every agency to perform a different service, which has been talked about for a long time as well. So I think they're looking into some of those things.
What can other agencies learn from what VA is doing since they're more mature if another agency might be, not quite as mature, farther, not as far along as VA?
Well, I think VA has a lot of best practices that they've used. I mean, they've married their operational data with their experience data. Early on when they created this, they went through a process of what's required by law versus what's required by myth, or has it always been done that way, right? I think the feedback, both from a customer perspective, but they were one of the first that actually focused on the employee experience as well. And some of the VA medical centers, a large proportion of them rate higher than any place in the country, right? Like 4s and 5s in all their medical centers, or a large proportion of them. So just knowing all of that, Dr. Davis gave an example today where her secretary went to the Hill and they were looking at veteran feedback for their jurisdiction, and she could give the secretary what veteran feedback is by demographic, by jurisdiction, so that they have the data to respond to anybody on the Hill who might have a question. And some of this you can't debate or argue or whatever, defend, I guess, if you don't have the data to support it. I think they have used human-centered design. And an easy example of human-centered design is just finding out why people don't have bad experiences in a medical center. Well, they found out they couldn't figure out where they were. They couldn't find their way around. So they created the Red Coat volunteer team where they have people in the medical centers that show people around. That's low tech, right? And it's done by volunteers. So I think the human-centered design has been kind of embedded in what they do.
And that's something they've talked about in that agency for as long as I can remember.
They did that at the very, very beginning. They have a pretty robust innovation ecosystem there and they use feedback. We've recognized a lot of the VA accomplishments in the Service to the Citizen Awards, and one of the things they found was that people missed medical appointments because they couldn't get transportation there. They're either too old, somebody, a caregiver couldn't take them, and so that when they figured that out, they created a program to partner with Uber and have an Uber Health program and saved millions and millions of dollars. They also were able to provide more solutions or more appointments.
This year, 2026, will be which year of the Service to the Citizen Awards?
Number 9.
Congratulations. It's really become just a tremendous evening and also a tremendous campaign to recognize how people are providing customer experience in the government. And you did it yourself. I mean, you did it the whole thing by yourself.
I did.
Pretty incredible.
Almost entire. Well, there's 3 of us, really. There's
right.
3 of us that do it. But I do have a lot of volunteers the day of the event, and companies send volunteers to help us the day of, and it's really even not customer experience. And that's why I didn't call it that, right? It's service to the citizen, it's employees, and it could be anywhere from using innovative technologies, emerging technologies, to setting up contracts or whatever so agencies can buy the services that they need. And it's one of those events that if you haven't been, you don't get it. Mm-hmm. Like, you just don't get it. So many people came this year. We moved from, we started out as a lunchtime event at the Willard, down to the ballroom, over to the Mayflower, and now we're at the Waldorf Astoria. And last year it was just spectacular, beautiful. I mean, we had great speakers. We had at least 2 of the winners give their acceptance speech and get standing ovations.
That's fantastic.
So all of that's available. Nominations are currently open. I think they're due April 3rd. We're looking for sponsors. That's another, a big deal to make this a reality. It's a big job. But we're excited to go into the 9th year.
Martha Dorris, after the CX Summit. You can read more about customer experience on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Don't forget, Fed Gov Today TV debuts at a new time starting this Sunday morning. You can see the new show Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on ABC 7 in Washington and on YouTube. If you missed the debut, you can watch on demand on the Fed Gov Today YouTube channel and at fedgovtoday.com. The next Fed Gov Today podcast is coming Tuesday. I'm Francis Rose. I'll talk to you then. Thanks for listening.